I've never considered myself as a salesperson. I've always been just kind of like a relationship person. Like I just want to be like friends or a resource. And when you have that approach, you never have to pitch or promote or influence people to purchase your product, or you never have to sell your service month after month after month and try to prove your value. Where if you focus on the relationship, they're just going to stay with you because they like you.
Welcome to the Web Design Business Podcast with your host, Josh Hall, helping you build a web design business that gives you freedom and a lifestyle you love.
Well, hello, my friends, specifically my non-salesy friends. You're in for a treat on this one because in this episode, number 327, we're going to dive into the relationship-first approach to sales on how to get web design clients without cold pitching, without selling, and without that hustle style marketing. Because if you're like me and most other web designers I know, especially those of us in Web Designer Pro, most of us don't love the cold calling, the selling, the hard pitching, the hustle style of marketing. And the good news is there are so many ways to get clients without being like that, without being that sweaty used car salesman. And one of those approaches is having a relationship first approach, but that's very vague. And in this episode, I'm really excited to get tactile and really practical on how to do this for you and your web design business from somebody who is a model of how to have this relationship first approach. This is Jake Hundley, who is the CEO of evergrowmarketing.com. Now, what's interesting about what Jake and their agency has done is they are exclusively a web agency for landscapers. And what you'll find out in this episode is that by focusing on a few key relationships, whether you're niche or whether you're a generalist, you can really do just that. You can have a relationship first approach in a variety of different ways and focus on that in order to build referrals, to build your network, and to easily get more clients just by way of keeping the focus on a couple key relationships. So in this one, we're going to cover how Jake had a couple key relationships that led to and continues to lead to the majority of their clients, the benefit of going niche and how that can make you very easily referred. You're going to find out a little bit more about how and what a gold mine of being a web designer at a separate industry conference can be, how to get clients through Facebook and other social media without pitching or being that annoying person who's like, hire me for work, and a whole lot more. So I'm real excited about this one. I hope you are too, especially if you're like me and you don't like persuading people to buy your stuff or having to be salesy. There's so many great ways to go about it, and I think this is really going to help you as well. So here's Jake. Let's dive into the relationship first approach to getting web design clients. Jake, good to have you on the show, man. Welcome to the podcast. You have a podcast. I'm extra excited to talk with you too, honestly, because you have such a niche marketing service for landscapers, but I know you're really interested in shedding light on the agency world with other freelancers and entrepreneurs. So all that to say, man, I'm really excited to get your perspective on some things today. Thanks for joining. Yeah,
thanks for having me. I thought it was interesting. It was actually one of my podcast listeners that suggested we meet up and do an episode together because he listens to both of us.
Awesome. That's the best thing too. I found like with podcast, and I'm sure you guys have seen this too. Just so for everyone's reference, your podcast is called the Everbros podcast, the agency growth podcast. And what's interesting is like, I think there's been a wave of honest entrepreneurship over the last, I guess, probably 10 years. You had mentioned before we went live, like you have a vendetta against the fake gurus of the internet. I totally agree. So there's something about like, and it sounds cheesy and cliche, but there is something about honest, real conversations about agency life and freelancer and entrepreneurship that is needed nowadays. So I'm excited to be a part of that crowd too, man. I think you guys are up to something pretty cool.
Yeah, I kind of credit, like, I have mixed feelings about Gary Vee, but like, I kind of credit the honesty, like honest entrepreneur to Gary Vee kind of like starting that wave. And it's just been, I used to watch a lot of other like, fake guru exposers on YouTube. And I think that's kind of what got me into it. And it's realizing if you're in the actual legitimate side of the agency space, it's actually really easy to pick out if somebody is being honest or not.
Well, and with a podcast, you'll find out very quickly. Like if you get somebody talking for an hour, that's when you really get to know who somebody is. It's like somebody could do a short episode or a half an hour and they could do the usual spiel kind of stuff. But once you really get into the meat of a conversation, you find out who somebody is and whether they are fake or whether they're putting on a front of something they aren't. And I think it's actually one really cool thing about podcasting. And I know this conversation is kind of all about building trust with clients and having an interest in relationships. I imagine a lot of that is the same for clients too. Like more so now than ever, I've found that clients want to work with somebody that they trust, like more than anything. They just want a trusted person. They don't want a flaky designer that's going to be there for 6 months and disappear. They don't want an agency that's going to treat them like a number. They want like a trusted person. What are your thoughts on that with the landscape now in 2024 with how clients are viewing their service providers?
Yeah, there's a lot that I think there's like two different sides of it. And you touched on a little bit of both of those. And one is we get a lot of prospective clients that come to us and say that, they've had a lot of bad experiences. They've had 3 other agency owners in the past that they've hired either off of Fiverr or even locally or just through recommendations through social media. And they've all been, I guess, shoddy at best. The processes kind of haven't been outlined. There's been a lot of miscommunication, just lack of delivery of the actual services. And usually what that points out to is what I found just being engaged with the agency space in general is that a lot of agency owners these days, without actually learning their own services, they outsource them first. And I think that's like the number one mistake new agency owners make is you need to become an expert in what you have first and in your product and the way that it delivers before you consider outsourcing it. If you go the other way around and you just try to do the arbitrage model without actually knowing, that's how things sour pretty quickly. Because now you're on the hook for the delivery of a product you don't even control. And then the other side of it was, not just being a number to an agency. And I get this a lot in the agency space and even people who write into our podcast about, how do I compete with the agencies that are huge? And there's a lot to be said about being a small agency owner and just being by yourself without even having, a team or anything like that, because some of these other clients have been burned by big agency owners where they feel like they didn't get any of the special treatment. It was hand off to like a junior representative, and big agencies aren't as agile as small agencies. So if there's a special request that needs to happen, they either get turned down immediately or, it takes a long time to facilitate. So by being honest with, how big you are and what your size is and everything there is about your agency, you can capture the right demographic. It's not difficult at all. Just be honest about who you are and how you're able to work with individualized accounts.
It's so true, man. Clients, I found in my experience, I ran my small studio. Basically, I don't even like to call it an agency. It was me as a freelancer solopreneur with some contractors. I was fascinated by how many clients were hiring marketing agencies and stuff, and they would always come back to me because I positioned myself as their trusted web guy. Like they could go through SEO consultants and marketing people and ads people all they wanted, but I learned very quickly, like, don't lose me. And I tried to tell my clients, like, don't lose me, because if you take your website over with a marketing department, if you stop hiring them, they're not going to work on your website anymore, or you could potentially lose your website to them. So I think there's a lot of, especially for my audience, for web designers, a lot of room to be that constant in a world of ever-changing marketing and agency life. But for agencies, and I'm curious to get your perspective on where you guys are at as far as an agency for your landscaping agency, but even for marketing agencies, you're totally right. I think it's actually more of a benefit to be a solopreneur with an extended network or a very small lean and mean studio or just a few people, because immediately you're separated from the pack of agencies that have 30 people and constant churn and questionable results. So can you shed some light on what's so interesting about you guys? Evergrow Marketing is your agency, but you guys specifically cater to landscapers and lawn care businesses. Like, how big's your team? What does your agency look like? Like, what's the size of your agency?
Yeah, it's relatively small. I guess it's relative to whoever is the listener, but we're doing about $500,000 this year. We closed last year out about 400,000. So it's too early to tell to project on what we'll close this year out. But right now, our team is just myself, my partner Cody, and then we have 3 part-timers, and then hiring 2 more. So from like a full-time to revenue perspective, we're like right around 125,000 per head. So we're definitely hiring. So we're hiring 2 more. So we're definitely growing. We're getting to this weird, uncomfortable position of we have too many allocated labor hours for what we have in inventory, and we have to hire more, but that's going to put us into a position that's where we have. Are you familiar with the profit first system?
Yeah.
So like that's going to put us into a position where we might exceed 30% of our payroll,
Gotcha.
Allocation. So it's kind of like this really weird, awkward position where we have to start investing in labor and internal resources in order to facilitate some of this stuff. But, again, we're in the landscaping and lawn care industry. So spring is our busy season. Between January and April, we are drowning, and we all hate our lives just a little bit. So it's the client relationship. Like it's great we're talking about this now because client relationships, I think in the last month or 2 have really kind of not been like at 100% because we've been so underwater with how much work that we have. We've had to put like holds on how many clients we can accept. And so we're only taking on 4 clients at a time. And then everybody else behind that's on a 30 to 60 day wait list to get on. And even last year in April, we shut our doors down until September. We literally said, we're not taking clients until September. And then we had people booked out until I think end of July. So
what's in your suite of services? Digital marketing can be such an open-ended term. Like you could do 1,000 different things. What do you guys offer?
Yeah, we do. So primarily we have our package that we get all of our clients on called the Foundation. And it's SEO, it's basic on-site SEO, Google Business SEO, and then PPC. So it's bundled together into one package. And that's kind of a transparency reason. So we wanted to offer SEO, but the problem with that is that businesses have to pay for SEO services for a number of months, even a year or so, just to even see meaningful results. So we bundle it we force people to be on PPC as well, because it's like, well, while that's building, like if you could be in an area where, 2 weeks down the road, the SEO just explodes because there's little competition, or you can be in a market like Denver and it can take a year. But if you force people to be on PPC, you can deliver immediate results right away that are trackable, and you can track that cost per acquisition from month 1. So we have other services that we offer, like Facebook ads. We even do Spotify ads for those landscapers that want to do radio but want the digital targeting. But we really focus on Google and PPC and getting our clients to that maximum search ad threshold before they jump to any other service.
Gotcha. And I'm checking out your programs page right now. It's funny because I learned that all roads led to websites. And even in your programs page, you even said like, you never wanted to be a web design agency or company, but you got to have a good website to get results with SEO and all the marketing you're doing. So how far do you guys go into the web design side of things?
Not crazy far. We have built some custom websites for some clients who just wanted custom elements to it. And we've built some pretty neat ones. The thing is, we're not a design agency. I think Cody and I are like, we're the opposite of creative people when it comes to like visually appealing things. So there's one situation where a client wanted to pay us a lot more money, and he'd have like the website designed in PDF format from someone on Fiverr. And then we just, again, use Divi, which I know you use, and built the exact thing. And we can do things like that. But for the most part, our clients are on a variation of 2 different website templates that we've built. And then when they sign on with us, we load that template and we just change out the logos, the branding, the content, the images, and then just make it unique to the services they offer.
Gotcha.
It takes us about 20 hours 20 to 25 hours to pump out a new website with tracking analytics and everything set up.
And that's the way to go for anyone who wants to have a productized or standardized service. I found that's absolutely the way to go. So you could focus on the marketing side of things. I want to dive into specifically your thoughts on relationships and people first approach. I imagine with landscaper or any, I mean, this will work with any industry, but landscapers in particular, I would imagine if you get in with one of them, it probably starts the referral train. Like, I guess one question I had before we dive deep into the relationship side of things, how'd you land on landscaping?
There's like a culmination of things, I guess. Like when, like in 2000, it was like 15, I met my business partner at a large agency that we worked at. They were an automotive agency. And, just for size perspective, I think they did close to 20 million. But they focused on the automotive industry. And then I became an account executive in the agriculture department. So I did like marketing for John Deere dealerships and things like that. And then when I moved to Kansas City 2 years later, did in-house marketing for a manufacturing distributor. It wasn't enough. So I was looking for landscapers in my area for some reason. And noticed that they were all like, this is back in the day where if you didn't have your Google business profile claimed, it would say, do you own this business? And now it just does it for everybody. So it was a very clear indicator to me that, oh, this is like very simple thing to do for this industry. And I kind of have a connection to it. So I could charge like $200 to claim and verify this one-time cost for these guys. And pay down some debt. And then it just kind of snowballed and rolled into this big thing. So,
gotcha.
But yeah, that's ultimately how that started.
So relationship first, people first, this approach. I mean, I feel like we're cut from the same cloth with that because that's how I ran my business. Nothing at scale, quality over quantity, very relationship driven. I learned to focus on retention way more than acquisition after some point. And as you mentioned, you've been through a busy season and it's really cool of you to be transparent, man, about not doing a good enough job potentially on the relationship side of things. So I would like to talk about keeping clients coming back, but I think that might be good for the next step. I want to start, how do you get clients, or how have you learned to get clients with a relationship first approach? Like, what are you doing to get clients in a way that separates you from other agencies?
Well, we drink our own Kool-Aid. We offer SEO and PPC services. So our number one way of getting clients is SEO. Right now you type in lawn care marketing company and we're number one on Google. So there is a big SEO component to it. It's reaching out to like industry magazines, like Green Industry Pros magazine or Lawn and Landscape magazine, and pitching them articles and telling them like, hey, we'll write for your magazine. And here's kind of our article pitch. We want to get in front of your audience with this content that we have and providing actual value. So like establishing relationships starts at, before you even have a client. It's establishing the relationship to the community in the areas that they're engaged in. And that extends into forums they're in. So one of the first approaches that I did was go to like Facebook forums and groups, and then also online forums. There's a big one called lawnsite.com. And I would just register as Evergrow Marketing. That was the name. And then never once solicit my services at all. Someone had a question, I would go extremely in detail. I'd be like almost over verbose on my responses and like literally give them step-by-steps on what they need to do to like improve the website SEO or like set up a Facebook ad or something. And then eventually everything just kind of came in really organically that way, like just kind of through being kind of that source of marketing information. And then after that, our SEO just kind of took off. And from there in the December, January, we get this like surge of website traffic because amazingly or not, like a lot of people actually do search for your industry plus marketing company.
Oh, totally, dude. That's such a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that because that is a hidden gem of a way to get clients from an SEO perspective. And I'm looking at your site too. Like you guys don't have a massive site. It's not like you have 300 blog posts.
How big is your site and the articles that reach out from your homepage? Do you know, just roughly?
Yeah, we probably have a maximum of 20 blog posts. I think, and then like our core pages, like our services that you're looking at, I can see the reflection in your little microphone mirror. Mm-hmm. There's probably like five or six. I can't remember, but we even like deleted a bunch of old blog posts that weren't getting any traffic in Search Console. But one of those things too that people often forget about is that Google Search Console data is not accurate. So like if you're trying to, rank for marketing company, one, you're probably not going to, because that's a very saturated keyword. But if you want to rank for your industry plus marketing company, it's a very good thing to try. If I looked in like Google Keyword Planner, it says there's only going to be like, if I'm not spending any money in Google Ads, it would say there's like 10 to 100 searches a month. Or maybe like 0 to 10 searches or 0 to 100. I can't remember what it says when you don't spend money, but it's going to say it's super low volume. But that data isn't really accurate. We actually had Tim Solo from Ahrefs on our podcast a month or so back. And the topic was SEO. There's no such thing as accurate SEO metrics, and that not even from Google. So I would really just start with targeting your industry plus marketing company and see where that takes you.
Yeah, that's wonderful, man. Start with SEO. And I think the reason I pointed out your site not being huge is I think a misconception is that you need to have like a massive blog and like super robust SEO strategies to make a difference. But like you said, if you target it right and focus on certain keywords or key phrases, particularly if it's either location-based or service-based, niche-based, you can get pretty far pretty quick. How long did it take you? Do you know how long it took you to claim that spot? Because I double-checked, everyone interested. I made sure Jake wasn't lying. Yeah. Lawn care marketing company, #1, passed the sponsored results. So that's #1 organic.
And we don't run paid ads. So everything is referral organic. So I would have to say that I think in January 2019 is when my partner and I officially partnered up. And then in mid 2019, we launched this new website here. And I would say 2021 is when we blew up. I don't know if it was, I don't 100% know if it was all from Google or if there was like a surge of referral traffic, but that was our first spring where we hated our lives. So,
well, when did you start posting in the groups? Was that immediately?
Yeah, that was immediately. That was like, I started like the Evergrow inception in July of 2017. And then I think by like fall, early winter, that's when I started posting. And to be clear, I never actually posted anything. I only replied to things. Yeah. So I think a lot of people try to force the solicitations and their responses, and people aren't stupid, especially if they own a business. So I think, I don't know how to get it across to people. Like Gary Vee says it all the time about authenticity, but I honestly think people have a very big misconception about what authenticity actually is and what value actually is, and making sure that you're there for the community and not to sell your services. It'll come organically. You just got to wait a little bit.
It's one of the #1 tips. I always say it's what I mentioned I have a business course for web designers. And when people ask me, how do I get clients online, specifically groups, go to groups, go to where clients hang out, and just be helpful. And the problem with that advice, I think, is that it's so simple that for whatever reason, most people just don't do it. And yes, there's not instant results often. I mean, maybe you might get some leads pretty quickly, depending on the size of the group and the interest. And if you're backing it up with, like you guys did, with SEO, with some social proof, with some authority behind it, I think that's the key with that. Because the worst thing you could do is be really helpful, but then not have a website or have a really bad website or no SEO presence. But if you have that in place, be helpful. People will find you out. People will check your profile. They will look at your descriptions. Even if they're not active on those posts, it's amazing how, not creepy, but just research oriented people are. They're going to check you out. Like they're going to creep on you. So be ready. Be ready for the creepers. That's what we should call it.
So it's funny you say that, because there's actually two things. There's two pieces of advice I have for posting. #1 is, don't act like you do the service for a living. Don't mention it. Don't say it. Don't say like, I do this for a living. I have all these accounts, blah, 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 blah. Just show knowledge. And what happens is people start to infer that you do it. And I think the first thing that I saw happen was I would reply to someone's post asking for advice or a question. Like, I'll give you a really good example. Someone would say, what's a good website to go to build my own website? Like, it'll get flooded by other landscapers being like, we recommend this, blah, 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 blah. Or they might recommend another agency. Then you get other agency owners being like, you can just hire us. But a smart person or smart agency owner would actually comment on that and say, it depends. Are you looking to DIY this, or are you looking to hire it out? If you're looking to DIY it, I highly recommend going to, well, let's just say Wix. But don't get your domain from Wix. Maybe get your domain from GoDaddy. That way you're not locked into Wix's weird domain lock stuff. And then leave it at that. Don't even say, if you want to do it professionally, you can always reach out to me. Don't even say that. Leave that out. What you'll see is your inbox will start to fill up. Not fast, but you'll start to get, the more you do this, you'll start to get people messaging you from these groups saying like, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm hoping you could help me out with this. And then they might not turn into clients. They might just be looking for more individualized advice from you. But if you're a newer agency owner looking for clients, you've got nothing but time on your hands. So help them out. The second thing I've noticed is that it's never the people who are asking the question that reach out to you. It's never the people posting. It is always the creepers. It's every single message I've gotten. I bet I've commented 10,000 times. 9,900 of those times have never been the original poster. It's always been someone who didn't even comment, someone just reading the comments.
These groups, are you talking Facebook? Are there other forums that are good places? LinkedIn? Like, are you guys on LinkedIn? Where are these groups that you've been involved with?
Yeah, it really depends on your niche. I think if I'm giving advice to everybody, it depends on what industry you're in. For our industry, Facebook is a really big platform for groups. I've tried Reddit. There's just nothing going on Reddit in the landscaping industry. LinkedIn, it's all of like the landscaping groups are literally just other vendors. So you don't really get a lot from there. And then there is an actual website forum called Lawn Site for lawn care providers that is separate from Facebook. It's its own entity, something you can sign up for. And that's one that I go to. Some advice, I guess you could like type in your industry plus forum and try to find that online. There's some organizations out there. So like in landscaping, there's the National Association of Landscape Professionals, NALP, and they have like their own community, and some other magazines have like their own community, and you can sign up for an account and comment and things like that. So I just encourage a lot of people to try to find out like where your clients are meeting together and conversing, and then, get in there.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. So online SEO or groups, stuff like that. What about in person? Are you guys have you taken an approach locally to do networking events, referral groups, Chamber of Commerce's? There's got to be like some landscaping conferences or something, right? What's the in-person route you guys have taken, or have you taken in person?
Yeah. It's funny that you say this. So we don't really do like in-person locally because we have competitive area restrictions for working with certain clients. So if we go locally to like a local Chamber of Commerce and we land a landscaping client, well, that area is done. So
gotcha.
And that'll change eventually once we hit saturation, but that's not for a while. And but I'm glad you brought this up, because we did actually attend a landscaping conference. There's a big one called Equip Expo in Louisville, Kentucky. And adjacent to that, there's also a landscape summit hosted by like a really big influencer in the landscaping industry, owns a franchise and has like 150 locations. But it's a really good segue into the overall topic of the podcast, which is like focusing on relationships. And so we started a relationship with a landscaper years back in 2021. And fostered that relationship to the point where like he bought into this franchise and became like the largest franchisee of that franchise, and had been hounding the franchise owner, like the overall company owner, of getting us in with the other franchisees. all like 150 of them. And they even have like their own conference, just the franchise conference. And in October of last year, we were invited to go and speak at their conference as a keynote. So
very cool.
I went to that. I gave them a 30-minute speech on how to light your money on fire with Google Ads. And I was the only vendor at that entire conference. And so I found out when I was there, they have actually never let a vendor at that conference. It's only been for the franchisees. So ever since like May of that year, of last year, when we got introduced to the influencer in this industry, we became like the Google Ads guys for this franchise. So
gotcha.
That was a really big break for us last year.
How did you meet him originally?
The landscaping or the franchise?
Yeah, the influencer started that.
Our landscaper client that we fostered that relationship with introduced us. He was like, I've been trying to his name is Mike. But he's like, I've been trying to get a hold of, get you in touch with Mike. So, get you set up on a meeting to provide a service that you could provide to the other franchisees, because Mike, this influencer, doesn't like marketing agencies at all. And he would, even on his own YouTube channels, had videos on how to run Performance Max campaigns. But if you are familiar with Google Ads in the local service industry, you know that performance ads actually suck. And so, or Performance Max ads, or in e-commerce, it's totally different. So our search ads continually beat out Performance Max. And so we were explaining that to Mike, and then I don't think he was aware of our prices, because our prices are relatively low compared to most other agency owners. And he just didn't see a world where our prices were going to make sense for what somebody else could accomplish on their own using a tool like Performance Max. And so we just had this conversation with Mike. He loved everything he heard, and then he said, he's like, yeah, all right, well, you have my blessing. And then he even put us in like the franchise resources for utilizing Google Ads.
These unicorn like gold mine partners are people we end up finding who become our biggest fans or our biggest referrals. What's interesting about that is it's hard to have an intentional approach to find them. And I say this because I had the exact same situation happen. My best client ever, his name was Tom. He was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for me. One guy had a couple different type of marketing agencies. I was doing white label work for him like crazy and custom builds. He was awesome. He was like the most down to earth, chill guy, would never let me give him a discount, told me one time, don't discount me for bulk sites. He's like, just charge me what you need to. He's just like the greatest dude. I didn't meet him directly. I met somebody at a networking event at a ribbon cutting locally. They had free hot dogs there, which also helped. So I went for free hot dogs and ribbon cutting. I met this dude who my family knew from like church years ago. And he was like, oh, Josh, you do websites now. That's cool. And 6 months go by, nothing. But then that guy that I met at that networking group said, hey, Josh, I remember you doing websites. I know a guy who works at a print design shop and they're looking for website help. That led to me meeting this guy who ended up being my best client ever. So all that to say, the idea of relationships first is so paramount and so key, because if I met the original guy at the networking event and wasn't cool, or viewed him as like, well, he's not really going to be a good person to get me business, I'm not going to spend time with him, I may have soured that relationship right away and he wouldn't have wanted to refer me. But because I was really warm and open and cool with him, and I tried to stay top of mind, and I was keeping top of mind on like Facebook where we were connected. I was sharing my work and saying like, I'm excited about working on this project. I stayed top of mind. When the opportunity came 6 months later, that's when the door was open. That's how I view those type of relationships. And I think it's really common, and it happened for you too. It's not going out to find that unicorn person. It's generally somebody you're going to interact with, and then they may meet somebody or they may know somebody. I think it's a really, really important point to hit on.
This particular client, Ryan, was the client who introduced us to Mike, and he used to own a marketing agency back in the day. I mean, it was back in the day of like, just copious amounts of black hat SEO and outsourcing a lot of the work. And when he worked with us, he knew just enough information to be dangerous and I guess like kind of like a pain. with those clients that they know more than I guess they should. So just because we were transparent and open and honest, just being like, hey, this is like the status of things. Like maybe 1 month didn't look good. We would say this month isn't good. So this is what we're going to do next month. And that really just fostered a lot of trust in our services. And then, we've had bigger clients come to us where they're like, hey, I currently have this agency that I'm working with. They're huge, but they, I feel like I can never get a straight answer from them. Our cost per acquisition rose by $20 last month. And it's been like that for, forever. But I can't get an idea of what's going on. And he's like, look, if cost per acquisitions are going up, that's fine. But can you tell me why? And so we would look into his ad account and we would say, look, we're not going to get you better cost per acquisitions. Like what they're doing is actually pretty good. The only thing I would do is probably not do like a brand campaign, because that's really driving that's skewing the results down. And just by being honest about that, we landed that client over a year ago and they're still with us. And now like I see in groups us being promoted by these. And just one other example is we get a lot, like we're extremely transparent with everything we do. We document every SEO change that we make, whether it's seen or not seen, every single month. And then the client has access to that document. Another thing we do is so we actually own our ad accounts. When a client signs up with us, we build the ad account under our Google Ads MCC, and then we give read access to the client. But they're able to see other keywords, they're able to download everything that they want. And some agency owners won't do that because they're afraid that they'll just take that ad account structure and then just replicate it and do it on their own. And to that, I just say, okay, go ahead. That's fine. Like if you're actually providing good results and your ad campaigns are doing well, then one, they shouldn't have any reason to leave you. But if they do, there's going to be things that they're missing, like conversion tracking, and they're going to have to figure out how to set that up. But ultimately, this client, he really liked working with us, but he also liked doing his own marketing as well. So he eventually built his own ad campaign, mirrored it after ours. And that was like 6 months ago. And to this day, like every single month I see him in there promoting us, like every day in the landscaping and lawn care groups. So.
Well, and something you did too that I like is that you didn't dog that other marketing company. You weren't like, yeah, they're ripping you off or they're shady. Like if they're doing a good job, say it. They're doing a good job. And I like that you did that. And you gave them a fresh perspective, or say something that you may do different. I found that clients really respect that if they almost leave the door open for you to like dog on a competitor, but you don't. And I can't tell you how vicious, like people who are competitors can be so vicious no matter what the industry is, but I found it to be an odd sense of trust building in sales if you actually are really respectful to your competitors. Or if you're like, yeah, they actually do a really good job. Like they have areas of specialty that I don't do, and they're actually really good at this area that I don't touch, but this is what I would do or something different. I found that so many clients that built such a level of trust because I had the opportunity to try to dissuade them from a current situation, but I was just like, yeah, they're fine. Like I had like clients who would show me a website that they got designed by a previous designer, and they were like, does this suck? And I could have been like, yeah, this does suck. You should come to me. I'll make it better. But I would often tell them like, actually, no, like there's a lot of great elements here. Yeah, I would do some stuff different, or I think this could be better. But, if they told me what they paid for them, I might be like, yeah, they did a good job for you. And that just sets like a level of trust. I don't know if that was intentional on your end or if that's your approach, but I think that's a message that needs to be louder for competitors in web design, especially, or marketing.
Yeah, a long time ago, I think it was 2017, I wrote a blog on my personal website, jakehundley.com, and it was called Trash Talking Your Competitors Loses Sales. And it's like a very general sales thing. If you've ever taken any kind of sales course or read any kind of sales book, trash talking competitors will lose you the sale. So, but it isn't something I consciously think of. It's just something that there's actually a podcast in our industry with a different influencer that I'm going to be on here relatively soon, and it's all about how much does SEO cost? Because there's like the range is across the board. Our foundation package, our management fee is $500 a month, and when I say that, eyebrows raise, and they're just say like, well, you're not going to be able to deliver anything for that. I'm like, yeah, maybe not for a 1,000-page e-commerce website, no, but for an 11-page landscaping website, yeah, absolutely. And Then there's like $2,000 a month, $5,000 a month SEO packages. So when someone comes to me and say like, I'm spending $1,000 a month on SEO, is that good? And I see comments in agencies, like other agency owners are like, that's not enough, or like, they just have opinions without knowing any of the information. And part of it is like, okay, well, what is that including? What are you getting? How many hours a month are they spending on the account? And even when they say I'm spending $200 a month on SEO, okay, what is that? Is that an hour a month on Google Business Profile optimizations? Like there's all kinds of key elements. If someone's doing something on a website, but then you audit the website and you see things missing, well, is the thing that's missing included in the package that they're paying for? This is information you don't know. So if you go in for the throat right away, you're going to make yourself look silly.
Gotcha. No, that's great. I actually just pulled up your trash talking blog as well. I'll make sure we link that in the show notes. Still ranking for that too, by the way. That was the first thing that came up when I typed.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. If you type in trash talking your competitors loses sales, boom, there it is. So I'm actually surprised.
It's funny because on that website, I don't care about rank at all. That's just like a diary. And so it's like,
isn't that such a classic SEO thing though? It's like when you don't if you don't overthink things and you just make a good piece of content, that's what Google pulls up. Yeah. I found that to be totally true.
None of our stuff, I've never used AI to write any of my content because it's just not good.
Yeah. Well, then it would be like unlocking the hidden treasure of, competition, or, it'd be something.
Well, I'm pretty crass in some of the stuff I write, and I don't think AI quite has the crassness.
Yeah, I don't know. Yet. Can you prompt ChatGPT to be like cuss and stuff? I don't know.
I don't think so. But I am also the worst adapter of AI. Like I'm an agency owner, but I just don't want to use it. I might use it to write like ad descriptions. And like, just give me like a bunch of different variations. I'll write the first one and I'll say like, give me like 4 different variations of this. And then I'll just take out whichever ones are terrible, which
I can't, again, right with you. I can't stand most of it, honestly. Like, I think it's a really good idea for idea generation and content ideas, but for actual published content, it's already so clear what was written by ChatGPT now. Like within 2 months, it was clear. Oh, here we go. Or the worst. Oh man, the worst. I don't know if you guys are experiencing this with your podcast, but I'm getting so many like cold outreach emails. I actually just posted on my socials. I've been getting the same template sent by different people. Like there was 3 almost verbatim, like the exact same template, very AI sounding.
This is that guru crap I'm talking about though. Because everybody buys into these courses, and then these courses are like, here's how to send 2,000 cold emails a day. And then like how to get clients for your SMMA. And then it's all the same template. I get the same template emails, like the same LinkedIn messages. I get the same Facebook messages. And this is like why we developed this podcast, is even before AI and before all this stuff, like gurus are still having the templatized things and saying like, this is how I did it. And then just like selling it to the masses because everybody who's trying to start an agency is just looking for quick and easy money.
Yeah.
And, they're realizing it's a lot harder than it actually is.
And that's the problem. Like I'm all about systematizing and productizing and templatizing your own stuff if it's repeated, but don't take somebody else's sales template and just spew that out to everyone, because that's the issue you're having. And it just becomes white noise, and it's an immediate turn off. Like, nope, not even interested. The email's already deleted. I'm glad I saved those just because I was able to post on my socials like, hey, heads up. If somebody emails me and says an audacious question, I already know they took it from this audacious question template.
Yeah. So, eventually we are thinking about creating like a course for agency owners and being like, this is how we would do, or like, this is kind of like how we grew. Here's, we're teaching you, instead of like how to run Google Ads, teaching you how to run and manage Google Ads from an agency's perspective, with an MCC account, with daily budget pacing, with all of your accounts, things like that. And there's like certain things in there, like in the business portion of it, that I'm conceptualizing, like how to allocate your agency funds according to the profit first system. And like even on our podcast, when we talk about how we allocate our different funds, we're not specific about the percentages we allocate to the different accounts, because we want that to be specific to the listener. Don't just copy with the percentages that we're sending everywhere. And like we've set even rules for ourselves, like with labor capacity and things like that, on we have a formula that tells us when we're allowed to hire somebody. And based on how much clients we have on monthly recurring retainers and their allocated hours divided by how much their management fee is, and then how much internal labor that we actually have versus how much is going into our payroll percentage wise. And
have you ever? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was like, when all the things line up, then it says green light, you need to hire somebody.
Awesome. Have you ever pursued Mike Michalowicz to get him on the show?
Not yet. I did talk to my partner about it on bringing him on the show. But I messaged you earlier today and I was like, it's our busy season. So Evergrow is exploding right now. And I've kind of put when I have bigger people on the podcast, like actual recognizable names, I like to prepare for those and actually, give good interviews. And like, we just haven't had the time to do that justice. I don't want to bring him on the show and kind of like,
wait till June or something.
Yeah. Right.
No, that makes sense. I was just wondering, for you guys really expanding on that profit first kind of stuff for agencies, I bet he would be, because I had him on last year. He was a great half an hour with him. And I know he's pretty open to all sorts of levels of podcasts. Like, I feel like he would, especially if you're talking profit first specifically and adding that into a course or making that conversation a bonus or something, that could be pretty cool. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting all coachy already. But, I'm excited for that, man. This relationship thing, do you carry it over with competitors? Like, what's your thought on coopetition and the idea of partnering up or like working with your competitors? Do you do that at all? Or do you guys stay in your own lane and not worry about what's that look like for you?
Yeah. I've never heard that term coopetition. That's hilarious. But no, so it's funny because I'm actually in a Slack channel with a bunch of other my competitors. Like there's probably like 10 of them in there. And then we all talk and celebrate wins. And I don't do the celebrating win thing. I win in silence. So like, if there's a question, somebody will pose a question and others will answer it. But I started my agency with a grudge against all my competitors. I was basically being like, I started going like, I will take food from your table. And I'm just a very highly competitive person. In fact, I'm so competitive. I got in at 3 a.m. this morning from Vegas for a national paintball tournament. And so I am running on low sleep because of my drive for competition. But when I started, that was kind of what my mindset was. And then I partnered with my current partner, Cody, and he was like, I don't think competition exists. There's no competition out there. There's only you and the services you offer. And so we really don't give our competitors a second thought. If someone's doing something, that's great. There's plenty more fish out there. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of shifted my mindset too. And like, I don't necessarily believe in competition. In fact, I was coaching a new up and coming agency owner who was in the same niche as me, who served the same types of clients as me, and just giving him advice. So in what I think is important too, is if you get to a point where you start turning down, I would say the majority of the leads that you get, because they're either not in your range and they can't afford you, or they want a service that you don't particularly offer or don't want to offer, then it's always a good look to have somewhere to send them. Yeah. Because when you tell somebody that they're not a good fit and then you just say, good luck, sayonara, it's not a good look for you. So it's not a bad look. It's just not a great look. So
yeah. And it's both ways, by the way, for newbies or folks who are working on more low level type websites or marketing campaigns. If you only go so far and you have a client who's more of an enterprise client or a larger business and they want more, but you can't offer it, it's awfully nice to know of a bigger agency that you could refer up to. And you could say, well, these guys are like legit, they can help you out. And I found, as a web designer, I didn't really struggle with that mindset of competition, but I didn't really understand the value of partnering with and working with coopetition. Like, I didn't understand the value of that until I realized that referrals one of the best ways to get referrals is not through necessarily other clients or customers, but it's with other marketing agencies. Because as you just rightly said, there's a good fit thing that is very real. And marketing agencies often don't want to take a website or a business owner who just wants a website for $2,000. But if you're just starting out, a couple grand may be perfect for you to get started out. If you meet this agency owner somewhere and you become their entry-level starter referral, and then when that business is big enough to go up to the agency, you can refer them back to them when they're ready. Like, there's such a symbiotic hidden gem relationship situation here that most creatives and designers just either haven't thought about or haven't made a priority, because you don't even have to sell if you're just building relationships with referral partners.
I think people are scared of losing clients. So if you ever do a SWOT analysis, like strength, weakness, what is it? Opportunities and threats. Like, one threat that you have is if you don't offer Facebook ads, but a competitor does offer Facebook ads and they offer the services that you offer. A potential threat is them consolidating all of their services and and everything with the other agency owner or with the other agency. But you also have to consider too that if what you offer truly is the best value for what you do offer, then if they did switch over to them, they're going to be missing things that they got from you. Mm-hmm. If you're not confident in the fact that they can get everything from the other agency at a better or at a better price or with more value, then you need to work on your own services. This whole group, this whole Slack group I'm in, it's literally, I've sent 3 or 4 prospective clients that have actually signed with other agency owners in that group. And I've had them refer people to us who have signed. Yeah. So
it's the best, man. Some of my best friends now are my literal competition, like my exact competition, but and it may be different in the agency space a little bit because you probably have services that are a little more close to each other. But like in my space, teaching web design, there's so many aspects of teaching this, and everyone has a different experience that leads them to be either a course creator or an educator or a coach. It's like everybody I know who's my direct competition, we all have our own little lanes of specialty. And yeah, we have plenty of overlap, but there's no reason that a web design student couldn't have 2 coaches. I actually recommend it. I think it's really good for people to have a couple different educators and coaches sharing different perspectives on things to see what works for you.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that every landscaping company should have 2 agencies, but you may have somebody who focuses on websites and then somebody who focuses on ads. You may have your own copywriter. I don't know how far or how willing you guys are to partner up with other people who fill in those shoes, but there's a lot of power in like being diverse with specialists, I guess.
And we've had to become specialists in our own right in certain areas, like email, for instance. If we build a website, that website's an important job of that website is to email the client the leads from the form fills. And so I'm sure you're very aware of the whole SPF and DKIM record situation. And I had a client recently say like, they want to pay for email marketing services. Well, that's not a service that we've productized right now. And we're not willing to productize that right now because it's not a priority of ours. It's going to break our processes and our systems. And, with how busy we are right now, it's just not a priority. So I recommend him reach out to other email companies. And there is someone in our landscaping network that does do email marketing. He reached out to her, and then he also reached out to some other company too. He ended up going with this other company. And I get an email from him that's a forward saying that we need to update DMARC records. And because we're familiar with this, I was like, Colton, who's my client, I go, you're not sending 5,000 emails a day, are you? And he goes, no. So I'm like, okay, well then you only need SPF and DKIM records from your ESP. And I don't know why they're asking you for DMARC records. And so immediately, like right off the bat, the other agency that he decided to go with doesn't seem like they know quite what they're doing. They just kind of seem like an email design agency versus an email deliverable agency.
Gotcha.
So if he would have went with my referral right off the bat, everything would have been taken care of for my client, and he wouldn't be going through this. And I also wouldn't have it to be the liaison between this.
Yeah.
So having that arsenal in your, or having those tools in your arsenal for other people that you can trust and refer to is really important for our client relationships and just helping them grow.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. let's wrap this up with retention real quick. I'd love to hear with this idea of relationship first. Like, what are you guys doing to, I know you mentioned you're in the thick of it right now, but in an ideal world, what are you doing to foster the relationships with your clients to come back other than just offering recurring services? Are you guys doing email nurturing sequences? Are you doing personal reach outs? Are you doing consulting and calls with folks? Do you have a community of customers? I'm just, shouting out ideas that I see my students use. What are you guys doing to keep your clients coming back?
Yeah, not enough. We have
there's 4 strategies right there. You're welcome.
Yeah,
to take
right. Thank you. I'm gonna steal all of it. Just kidding. I don't have. It's hard. It's like retention is a thing that we do focus on. Tracking, not necessarily nurturing, and so this is like one of our downfalls. But we haven't really had an issue with lack of retention because we set expectations really clear from the beginning. If you go to our about page, we give clients like our 3 core values. One is we're mutually profitable. So we're not going to offer a service unless it's profitable for us and profitable for you. And then we even say like, we're looking at you, TikTok, like in the landscaping industry, because it's like, we can do organic social, but it's not going to really make you profitable in this industry. 2 is we're hands off. So we don't schedule weekly calls or monthly calls. If you want to reach out, if you want to know more information about your campaign that's not on your reporting that you get every month, then you're absolutely free to do that. But we just don't put those on the calendar. And then the third one is we're performance focused. So we make sure we focus on cost per acquisition. We don't focus on clicks or impressions or things like that. We focus on how much are you paying and how many leads are you getting. Additionally, if you read the hands-off thing, if you don't communicate that your leads are bad, that's partially on you. So we're very, very clear about this. And if you even scroll down further, we give you reasons why you shouldn't work with us.
Yeah. That's cool.
And so our retention really starts at the beginning of the relationship on setting those expectations. And I say this all the time, but our services aren't meant to fundamentally change or grow your business exponentially. That's still up to you. But our services are designed to take SEO and Google Ads and offload that externally just for you to know that that's profitable and bringing in leads. You still need to hit the pavement and do door hangers. You still need to do postcards. You still need to do the other marketing stuff. And but from a relationship perspective, it's very one-to-one. So all of my clients have my cell phone number. All of my clients are emailing me and messaging me whenever they have questions. And unfortunately, my business partner was going through a lot of personal things with selling his house recently. I've had a lot of trips coming up in February and March that have all kind of coincided with our very busy season. So both of our email inboxes are like 150 messages deep. And so that's kind of where we're falling behind on the client relationship and management stuff is getting timely responses back. But usually if they email us, if they call us, if they text us, they're going to get a response either within the same day or the next business day.
Gotcha. Do you have a VA or is that an idea that you have to assist with some of that, particularly in those waves of seasons where there needs to be a response, but it may not be from you yet?
Yeah, not yet. I was talking to Cody about this recently. I can't remember if it might have been in our podcast that I'm actually cutting for this Friday, but it was like, I just don't think we're big enough for a VA, like it seems like one of those agency things where, you can't, it's almost like a client relationship manager, not like a CRM software, but like a CRM job position. And, I don't know. That's just not our area of expertise. So no, I don't have a VA, but it's, as this spring closes down, I consider it more and more every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd imagine there's an opportunity for you there. I'm like at the point now where my email is starting to become a problem. I've always had really good email practices and I've been an inbox zero guy for a long time, but I'm literally at the point where like, I just can't keep it down, mainly because of the amount of requests that I get. Yeah. I'm pretty quick to delete cold outreach stuff if it doesn't resonate with me pretty quickly, but I'm already at the point where I'm like, and I say this because it might be helpful for anyone in this situation where you can't keep up with your inbox. It's like, there's a lot of value I've found in hiring out the first layer of communication if it doesn't need to be you, and then you reserve that for your active current clients. That way, maybe your email might be 50 instead of 150 if it's with current clients that are all needed. Now, if it is 150 current clients, then that it may be more of a project manager type situation. That might need some help
and
on.
I think that's what we're kind of looking forward to, because it is. I mean, we have a relatively low cost service, so we have, between like the client, the relationship person is me. And so I manage 50 plus of our clients. So if it's spring and we're onboarding tons and tons of new clients, but then also getting requests from our other clients saying that, hey, we need to have this for like a new careers page for the spring. It's a very it can be a tough conversation to say, okay, well, are you prioritizing your careers page over another landscaper who is wanting to get their Google ads live for the first time? And it's one of those things. We do month-long sprints too. So when a client emails us for a request, they know that it's not going to be turned around until either the end of this month or next month.
Gotcha.
And
I think your more organic approach is totally fine. Like in most cases, if you have a recurring service or a subscription style service, you're going to be talking to them. So it sounds like for you, retention is just all about getting results and continuing to do work for them rather than an official newsletter or any of the strategies I talked about before.
That just sounds like more work that I just don't have time for, So
and that's, totally. Yeah. You almost don't need to. If you don't need to do it, don't start a newsletter if you're fine and you're already top of mind with a lot of clients. But when I'm excited to see what happens after this spring over the next year for you, because if it does get to the point where it's I cannot keep up with my email or response times are now, a week instead of 48 hours, that's when it's all right, something's got to change.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting there. It's not even 48 hours. It's 72 to 86 or 70 or 96. It's getting pretty bad right now. And I'm just being transparent with that with my clients and saying hey, we're underwater right now.
So, and I know you're in the season. Otherwise I would advise, the coach in me would advise, let's look at a potential project manager type situation who could also act as a VA. It'd be like a project manager VA type thing.
We have an internal person right now who does, we hired her for documentation because we're working on documentation. We've been working on documentation for years now, but we've got a cool process where Cody or myself will record us doing something, and then we'll give it to the person, and then they'll document it following our documentation guidelines. That way, it's being documented the way that everything is uniform. But all we have to do is do the thing on video, and then they just watch the video and do it. But she's doing that. But then I just had a discussion with her on Friday, and I was like, hey, you've expressed that you wanted more hours. Here's what we need. And it's basically administration. We need someone to do invoicing. We need someone to do project management. We need someone to do non-billable things. And so we're headed in that direction where everything is, we do pride ourselves a lot on having an internal team and no outsourcing. So obviously we have contractors, but they're only contractors because we can't W-2 them. But they still have their own Evergrow email, and they're treated as part of the internal team member. So that's kind of just how we've operated, and we're heading in that direction. The other challenge is we're a $500,000 agency, but I still have a full-time job. So I'm loading that on top of the agency, on top of the podcast. And so something's gotta give eventually.
Yeah. Oh, now my coaching gears are churning now, man. It's funny. I just released a course called Scale Your Way. So it's there's a lot of ways to do it. Yeah. You just got to scale the way that works for you and with your timetable, your goals. And I think you guys are on the right track for sure. I mean, the cool thing about focusing on this is a lot of people get to the situations where it's okay, now you're at the crossroads where it's what do I want this thing to become? What type of work do I want to do? Do I want to focus on client first relationships, or is that, could we hire some of this out kind of thing? So, I'm excited to see where things land at the end of the spring and moving forward for you, man. I would love to wrap this up just by throwing it to you for one final question, which is relationship. What's the best part about being relationship first? Open-ended question, but for somebody, no matter where they are in their journey, particularly for those who are introverts and don't want to sell and be loud and visible online everywhere, I imagine it's super beneficial for them. Like, what's your take on why relationship first is awesome?
Because you never have to sell. Like I consider myself an introvert. Cody is also an introvert. And so we're just like a very introverted company. And I've never considered myself as a salesperson. I've always been just kind of like a relationship person. Like I just want to be like friends or a resource. And when you have that approach, you never have to pitch or promote or influence people to purchase your product, or you never have to sell your service month after month after month and try to prove your value. Where if you focus on the relationship, they're just going to stay with you because they like you. And if your services start to falter, if your communication starts to falter, which ours is, you have the relationships to fall back on with all of your clients. And thank God we do, because all of our clients still love us. We had recently, like one of our clients had a baby. And so my fiance and I went to Target and loaded the company credit card with $200 of baby supplies, and we just shipped it to him. And it was was all over his social media. He's like sending like, this is amazing. And then like, unfortunately, like 2 months later, another client had a baby. So we had to do the same thing. We sent it out. Yeah. But it's things like that where you can't really do that if you're not relationship focused, or else it's kind of weird. Or you just don't know because your clients don't really communicate to you that, what's going on in their lives. So having those things are just really cool. The connections, just meeting, like just going out with your client and having a drink. Like when we went to the expo, I went out with a bunch of my clients and just had drinks and didn't talk about work at all.
Oh, I was going to say it's a perfect time to upsell too. Get them all toasted and get ready to.
Yeah.
Let's do it, Jake. Let's go for the big plan, man. I'm in.
Open your wallet right now.
That's right. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Make sure you collect the payment while you're at the bar. Awesome. Well, Jake, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you being transparent a lot about where you guys are at, but most importantly, your different take as an agency. I've met a lot of agency owners, and you go against the grain for most agencies, which is probably why you're having the amount of success you are. So very, very cool, man. I appreciate you hearing your perspective on this stuff. Where do you want people to go after this to connect with you?
Yeah, just check us out on everbrospodcast.com. It's very similar to our agency name, which is Evergrow Marketing, except me and Cody, we're two dudes, Everbros. And from there, you can reach out to us via the form fill if you got any questions. You can also comment on the individual episodes, and you can find all the links to whatever streaming platform you want to listen to, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever. So yeah, just feel free to check it out and reach out to us if you got any questions.
Right on, man. We'll have it all linked up. Thanks for your time today, Jake.
No problem. Thanks, Josh.
Awesome, right? So many ways to get clients without having to hard sell. And again, being that used, sweaty car salesman. So I really hope this one helped you and gave you some encouragement and maybe not inspiration, but what's the word I'm looking for? So, some backing on, I'm sure I'll think of the word right as I get done recording, but some support on this idea of focusing on a few relationships and how that can build your business. I firmly believe in the beginning years, you need to do a little more selling, but as long as you get a few clients and you have a few, whether it's a networking group or a core group around you, if you focus on relationships and deepen those relationships, you will have to sell less and less and less and less over time. And everything Jake and I just covered is going to be a big help to you. So we covered a lot here. Links, show notes, and the resources we covered are going to be found at joshhall.co/327. Full transcription is over there for you as well. And as we mentioned, Jake is also the co-host of a podcast called the Everbros Podcast. You will find me on there here, I think at some point this summer, so or maybe in the fall. So make sure to tune into that. And a lot of great resources over at joshhall.co/327. If you want to find out more about what the actual agency is up to that Jake runs, go to evergrowmarketing.com. Again, really good example of niching down for one industry, in their case, the landscaping industry. And man, relationships. Focus on those friends. Sell less, make more through relationships. That's a pretty good title. Well, we'll save that for another one. Cheers, friends. I will see you over at the show notes for this one. Please subscribe, and if you would, please leave a podcast review. I got a couple more recently. I love seeing those. I do read those, and it really helps grow the show. So if you would like to help some other web designers, leave a review. That's something you could do. Some people ask me, how can I help? And I'm like, leave a podcast review. It's actually a huge help. So I would so appreciate it on Spotify or the Apple, and I really appreciate it. See you guys on the next one.